Cafes are more than just a place to have coffee, though. This is where Parisians engage in the art of flânerie, which is strolling, and more importantly, people watching.
Enchanté.
Bonjour, I am Angela, and this is Paris with Angela. We're going to explore the city of Paris together on this brand new show. We're going to talk about travel and culture and etiquette. I am Angela. I've been online for 20 years as Parisian Farm Girl. So you can follow me on the Parisian Farm Girl blog. You can follow the Parisian Farm Girl YouTube channel. That is where you'll find French-inspired living and design. I focus a lot on interior design and gardening, but this is Paris with Angela. 2 to 4 times a year, I take followers from that blog and from that YouTube channel to Paris with me for a culinary and flea market focused tour. Our next tours that we have openings for are in April of 2025. I would love to have you join us, and you can visit ParisianFarmGirl.com/Paris with Angela, or simply check the show notes to this episode for everything that you need to know about that. So this show is sponsored by Paris with Angela Tours. And of course, when you're traveling, you need travel insurance. So I suggest Travel Insure. You can use my link, TravelInsure.com/Paris with Angela for excellent rates and options. The show is also sponsored by Dry Farm Wines. Now, I want to introduce you to biodynamic, organic French wines. Growing in popularity all around Paris and France are biodynamic wines. And these are the wines that I drink here at home. This is what I stock my wine closet with. You can visit dryfarmwines.com/Paris with Angela. You can have them shipped right to your house once a month or whenever you like. This is the wine that I drink. These are small family farms around France and beyond. So visit dryfarmwines.com/Paris with Angela to get a free bottle with your first order. Today, we are looking at Paris cafe etiquette. I thought this would be a great episode because one of my guests that's coming with me on an upcoming tour, she said, look, the reason I'm coming with you is because I want you to help me from looking silly. So I thought we would look at the Paris Cafe and everything about it, because you're going to end up spending a lot of time at Paris cafes. I would guess you might visit a Paris cafe once, if not twice, if not 3 times a day during your visit. So why not learn everything that you need to know? So let's talk about ordering, let's talk about social cues, and let's take a really good look at Paris cafe etiquette. I'm assuming this is going to take more than one episode to cover everything that I want to talk about. Paris cafes date back to the 17th century, starting with Le Procope, which opened in 1686. The Café Procope in the Rue de l'Ancienne Comédie is a cafe in the 6th arrondissement. So that means it's in the 6th. It's in the 6th. You'll see this when you're looking at a map of Paris. If you're brand new to this idea of how Paris is laid out, you're going to see numbers for each neighborhood. This cafe is in the 6th. It's often called the oldest cafe in Paris, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it did close for a time in 1872. It reopened in 1957 and is still open to this day. Cafes like this quickly became the heart of the social and intellectual life in Paris. So you have famous figures like Voltaire and Hemingway, Picasso frequenting these spots. They're becoming like incubators of revolutionary ideas, philosophy. If you watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, there's a hysterical episode in season 2. I think it's season 2, episode 1, that shows a lot of like this. That shows a look of these deep conversations happening in a Paris cafe. It's pretty cute. But these cafes are more than just a place for you to have coffee and to rest your feet during the week that you are in Paris. Cafes are more than just a place to have coffee, though. This is where Parisians engage in the art of flânerie, which is strolling, and more importantly, people watching. Paris cafes are a phenomenal place to people watch. And this is a leisurely activity that, for you as a tourist, really allows you to absorb the city's essence. There is nothing like sitting and people watching in a Parisian cafe. Now, the atmosphere and the ambiance of a Parisian cafe is very welcoming. There's often outdoor seating with small round tables. Inside, you'll find small tables and banquettes that you can nestle in the corner if you'd like something a little bit more intimate. When it comes to the menu, Parisians typically enjoy an espresso or a café crème, which is similar to a latte. Here's a little tip. If you're ordering a café crème in the morning, you can call it a café au lait. That's an expression, that's a name that's used more often in the morning. For something sweet, you could have a croissant or a tartine, which is a piece of baguette with jam and butter. It's very common. Don't forget the iconic croque monsieur, croque madame. We'll talk more about foods in other episodes. But if you're wondering what type of fare you can find at Parisian cafes, it's those basics and other basics. So just like we have our restaurants here that serve a really classic fare like Reuben sandwiches, chef salads, you're going to find similar things at Parisian cafes. There will be the croque monsieur, croque madame. There will be soupe à l'oignon, which is French onion soup. There will be duck confit. There will be some sort of a steak au poivre, steak with shallots, something to suit everyone. I've taken my children to Paris. There's going to be something on the menu that will accommodate your children as well. As you approach the cafe, often you'll be intercepted by a waiter. So if you're wondering whether you need to wait to be seated or seat yourself, you can often seat yourself, but just as often, you'll be greeted by a waiter who will ask if you'd like to eat indoors, if you're sitting for lunch. And something that I absolutely love about the French dining experience is the lack of pressure. So here in the States in particular, we have like a turnover at our restaurants, and you can feel a vibe from your server that they want you to eat, they want you to get out, they want their tip, and they want to stick the next family or next group at your table. You don't have that pressure at a Paris cafe. If you sit down, that is your table for as long as you want it. If you want to people watch for 3 hours while you drink a glass of rosé or a bottle of rosé with a couple girlfriends, you can do that. And you're not going to feel any pressure to move on and make space for the next group. That is your spot. You want to bring a book, you want to have a couple coffees and relax, you can do that without that pressure. You're also not going to have the same amount of attentiveness from your server. Now, that can be a little disconcerting if you're not used to the culture. And that's the point of this show, is really to introduce you to the way things are done so that you can have the most pleasurable, the most enjoyable vacation or trip to Paris. If you need to get your waiter's attention, a simple s'il vous plaît is appropriate. Please don't say garçon. I know you see that in children's books, but you'll want to stick to s'il vous plaît, which means please in French. And when you're ready to leave, if you need to get your waiter's attention, you can put your hand up, put your finger up, but try to make eye contact with him as he's passing by. And you can say l'addition, s'il vous plaît. That's the addition. That's the bill. You want the bill. And I will put these thoughts in the show notes for you as well. One of the most important aspects of the cafe is this leisurely feeling. The Parisians savor their time at the cafes, and I invite you to do the same. So linger over that drink, linger over that meal, enjoy it. Give your feet what is probably a much needed rest. Politeness goes a long way. Always greet the staff with a bonjour and a merci when you leave. Patience is key. Good service in Paris is attentive but unhurried. I just want to repeat that. Good service in Paris is attentive but unhurried. Most of the time, you're going to get excellent service, but it's going to be a little bit different than you're used to. So you're not going to have Brad, your waiter, coming up to the table. Hi, my name is Brad. How can I help you? You get your food 10 minutes later. Brad wants to know if it's good. 5 minutes later, Brad wants to know if you still are enjoying it. 5 more minutes later, Brad wants to know if you need anything else. They give you privacy and respect so that you can enjoy your food. So that can feel like inattentiveness when actually it's their way of being polite. So if you do need them, simply put your hand up as they're passing by, s'il vous plaît. But know that their approach to your dining experience is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. Now, speaking of differences, let's talk about respecting space. So there is a reason we have an expression, when in Rome. So let's keep that in mind and think when in Paris. This is something that Americans are typically known for in Paris, and that is speaking loud. In general, the French use a much quieter tone when conversing when they're out for dinner. And you can usually tell which table is full of Americans. It's not just their attire, it's the volume with which they speak. So if you want to use that mindset of when in Paris, keep your volume at a moderate level and respect the intimate ambiance of the cafe because it's very intimate. There will be people right next to you many times. And you also want to avoid spreading out too much. So if you have a lot of bags, I do a lot of shopping when I'm there, tuck them under the table. If you're concerned about forgetfulness or them being stolen, you can link maybe your foot through a strap or something like that. Don't fall when you stand up. So what you want to remember from this episode is when in Paris. Keep your volume at a moderate level. Be mindful of the space around you. Remember that the approach to serving you is going to be a little bit different. If you're from the United States, it's going to feel a little bit different. It might feel hands off. So make sure you ask the questions to your waiter that you want to ask when he comes around. And don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, please, can you help me? Can you come back? We're ready for the bill. We'd like some more water. We'd like another bottle of wine. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. Let me know about your very best Parisian cafe experience. Don't forget to check out ParisianFarmGirl.com/Paris with Angela, dryfarmwines.com/Paris with Angela. Check the show notes for any other links that you need. And thanks for giving me a 5-star review on this brand new podcast, Paris with Angela. I'll see you all again very soon. A bientôt.